Welcome back to Cadwell Park for the next race here for the Caterham weekend. It's the Mission Motorsport Caterham Roadsport Championship this time. The champion has been crowned. Taylor O'Flanagan managed to secure it last time out at Snetterton. He isn't here. He's giving everyone else a sporting chance. Now, car number 22 is Hugo Bush, who is going to be starting on pole. Hugo, bit of a different track to last time out. How are you feeling? You're on the pole. You must be pretty confident.
Yeah, it's a nice tight technical track, which I think suits me. So, and obviously managed to get the pole position. So, hopefully we can convert that into a race result. Excellent stuff. Now it is getting really, really chilly. Now, for those that may be a bit less familiar, you've got a screen on these cars. Does that kind of help protect you from the elements a bit?
Not really. It's Caterham, so if it's raining, you're going to get wet.
Fair enough. Well, hopefully the car does its job. Best of luck, Hugo Bush. Car number 22 on the pole spot. Car number 59 is Tom Cockerell. We'll have a chat with you, Tom. How are you feeling? Pretty good effort to be on the front row next to Hugo?
Yeah, qualifying went well. I was out on my own for most of it. Got one lap in my toe, which put me up here, so feeling pretty confident. Cadwell's an amazing track to drive, especially in Caterham, so go out there and have fun, hopefully.
Oh, fair play. I mean, what a way to see off the season here at Cadwell. I saw in the grandstand you got a few supporters with you as well, and you were giving it quite a few beans over the mountain, I noticed.
Wow, you got to make fun out of what got. Yeah, I think I've inherited most of Taylor's team support for this race, so hopefully put on a good show for them. Not too close because I want to take the win, obviously, but we'll see how it goes.
Good man, don't blame me at all. Best of luck to Tom Cockerell, car number 59, starting in second. As the sign for the drivers to start their engines has just gone out, we'll have a quick word. Oh, never mind. No, we won't, because the whistle's just gone. We were about to chat with number 25, Dominique Mansberger, but sadly he's gone out. Time to hand over to Scott Woodward in the commentary box.
Thank you very much, Chris. Yes, indeed. Our last Caterham race of today is just about to get underway. Of course, the Mission Motorsport Caterham Roadsport Championship, which, as Chris has correctly said, has already seen its provisional champion crowned in Taylor O'Flanagan. And as he's decided to sit out the last couple of races in order to essentially preserve his his provisional championship victory, it now means the focus switches on to the battle for second place points, and that's going to be quite the occasion, given the fact that there is still quite a titanic battle going on between those involved. It involves, on drop scores, primarily Hugo Bush, Dominique Mansberger and Tom Cockerell. And ironically, all three of them start on the first three spots of the grid. Hugo Bush starts on pole, Tom Cockerell second, Dominique Mansberger third. That's the main battle towards the front for second in points. Steve Lancaster, an excellent fourth, ahead of Alex Vincent and Peter Mott, who started fifth and sixth places respectively. Then it's Adam West, Batman himself, alongside Toby Boys in eighth on the grid. They make up the fourth row. Then followed by the fifth row with James Hall and Andy Lund, who has had some up and down fortunes this year, but doing well to start in the top 10. And then following that, we have Andrew Berg and Mike Hilton on the sixth row of the grid. And that's then followed by Marcus Eales and Ian Hapgood on the seventh row. So Marcus Eales and Ian Hapgood on 13th and 14th positions. And then it's Simon Arnold and Adrian Mariadis on row 8. They scroll through, and that is the conclusion of the grid. So 16 cars on the grid for this first of two Mission Motorsport Caterham Roadsport Championship races. So, with the championship already wrapped up, Chris, of course, as we say, Taylor O'Flanagan has decided to do the champion thing, which is I've provisionally won the championship. I don't need to do the last rounds. I'll sit out and I'll bank the drop scores. The scores I was going to drop anyway. I'll get them back and essentially preserve my championship victory. That means now the focus course, as we say, switches on this three-car fight for second place. All three of them at the front of the grid. We know how competitive they all are. We know how hard they can all race each other. Are we anticipating fireworks?
Oh, of course, yeah, especially around Cadwell. These three have been going hammer and tong all year. Obviously, Taylor's been up there with them as well. But Dom Mansberger there in third place. He probably won't want to stay there. He's not the kind of character who wants to stay there. But Hugo Bush and Cockerell have, they've been right there or thereabouts. But for a few results, they would have, been there, for the win of the championship. But Yeah, you know, Taylor's not here because he can only lose the championship by taking part. He cannot win it. He's already won it, and so we often see that in the final race of a season with Caterhams. If someone's run away with a season, or it just isn't, they'd like to protect it, and that's what we're seeing. But it does, like you say, it brings the focus in on this second place in the championship, and that's what we're going to be focusing in on today. And I know that there's, you know, certainly that everything's up for grabs for these three. They've, like I say, they've all been there or thereabouts, but they've each had their kind of issues through the season, which have cost them that ultimate point total that they needed for the win. But nevertheless, everyone wants those second and third places as well in the championship. It means that the awards ceremony in a few weeks' time, you can go pick up your nice trophy and get the awards, the rapport from all the crowd as well. Speedy Dry still down there from the previous race. Looks like it's actually mostly tidied itself away. Certainly there was big plumes of dust in the first race, but it looks like that's going to be okay for them. But you should be using this green flag lap to make sure that you have got grip where you need it around that corner. You don't want to be shocked the first time you come through.
So just to give a quick recap and also some connotations quickly. So in terms of points, Taylor Flanagan comes into the weekend on 244 points on drop scores. Now, because he's not contending, the 2 zeros he gets for not contending this weekend will become his drop score. So what he'll get back are the 2 scores he was originally dropping, which is 2 fourth places. So essentially, even though he's not raced this weekend, he will essentially have the points back from the equivalent of what would have been 2 fourth place finishes. So whatever happens, he's still, it's essentially, it's almost as if he's essentially quote unquote scoring 21 points from each of the 2 races this weekend without even doing them, if that makes sense. So what it now means is that the battle between the front is a tie for second place at the moment between Hugo Bush and Dominique Mansberger, and then Tom Cockrell in 4th with 226. Now in terms of quickly championship connotations for the road sports, it's too close to call really, because apparently Hugo and Dom are level on drops, although Hugo has the slight advantage on the tiebreak with an extra win to his name. Tom is only 3 points behind, so can't be discounted. Tom is only he's also dropping in the best score at present, so has the highest to fall back on if the weekend goes south. Assuming they make the top 3, it may well be a case of whoever wins both races, but we won't know for sure until after Saturday's race. Gwyn Jones also has an outside chance if the lead 3 has a disaster, but it's unlikely. This, Simon Lambert has dubbed, is the one to watch, because this is going to be the fight at the front. So the title might be settled, but that titanic scrap for the podium places is surely going to go all the way to the end. So 5-second board has gone up, and we're all set for our first Mission Motorsport Caterham Roadsport Championship race of the weekend to settle who picks up runner-up spot in the championship. Great jump off the line from Tom Cockrell. He must have judged that perfectly. He wins the drag race initially with Hugo Bush, but he gets us another gear on the run down towards Coppice Corner. They're going to be level. Dominique Mansberger tries to muscle his way in between the both of them. Almost does it, almost makes contact, but they all manage to get through pretty much cleanly and safely into Coppice. Now up through Charlie's, round the outside goes Hugo Bush and thinks, right, no messing around, I'm going straight for the lead on this outside line. And Mansberger tries to go up the inside, and there was a tiny bit of contact of wheels, but they just about got away with it. So that could have been possibly end of championship chances for the runner-up championship chances there and then between those two. And Hugo Bush would have been running away laughing to himself silly. Down up the back straight, up towards Park Corner. Here comes Mansberger into the right-hander. Big lock-up also from Steve Lancaster's done well off the start as well. And up through the right-hander, up onto Chris Curve now, past the quick dry pounder, which is actually has quickly dry quite quick against the name. Through the right-hander at Chris Curve, up through the gooseneck for the first time, and all cost tearing up a little bit now. Mansberger working away at the wheels. He dips down through the gooseneck and up towards Mansfield again. Lancaster holding up Alex Vincent, who Alex has had 1 or 2 points in the season when he's shown really good strong pace and charged his way through. In 5th position right now, but this battle is all starting to hot up already in this opening lap. But so far, Chris, it's advantage Bush because he's trying to pull away, whilst Mansberger and Cockrell are so focused with themselves, they're letting him try and pull away a gap in this early lap.
But Mansberger is looking like a man on a mission at the moment. He's the attitude of that car is very much, I want to go forward. He was taking no prisoners, was he? He was absolutely, pushing forward through that first. And we saw a bit of contact through turn 2, but it didn't actually cost him any momentum, and he was still able to make that pass stick at the top of the hill. They've had that 1 lap through the Speedy Dry showing that they've still got rear left grip, which was quite important at that point. But Mansberger now, obviously, he's got to worry about that gap in front of him. The toe is very powerful, and Roadsport maybe even more so because of the screen that we were talking about in the assembly area just then. whilst it doesn't protect you from the elements, it certainly causes more drag on your car, and therefore the powerful toe that we already know is even more powerful in these road sport cars.
Yeah, particularly with these cars are aerodynamic, but they do put quite a punch when it comes to the hole in the air that they make, which means that the cars following get quite a large advantage to getting pulled along up the hill. Case in point, Tom Cockrell's got a great toe on the back of Dominique Mansberger, and here he comes to the outside. The red and white car, one of last year's the outgoing Academy champions from last year, now holding on to the position now. And Steve Lancaster, I have to say, having his best race today, because Steve Lancaster had a brilliant qualifying in 4th position, and whether it's just this circuit or not, he's in there at genuine pace, looking up the inside for a genuine chance for a pass. It's Cockrell, he looks again up through the gooseneck, but can't find a way through. But Steve Lancaster, as Mansberger runs a little wide on the exit, Lancaster genuinely is impressing me in this first race initially so far. Strong qualifying in 4th, and on genuine pace, he's keeping with this battle for 2nd.
Yeah, it looks like Cockrell up the inside there of Mansberger. That's squeezing it down the inside of Mountain. It does mean that you're on the outside. He's actually backed away from it. Actually, I think that's probably the sensible call at that point. Like you say, Lancaster there in 4th. I wonder whether he's a local driver, because it's sometimes you have people who have been to the track and maybe just know it that little bit and have maybe done a few test days and track days. But yeah, Cockrell there doing, I think, the sensible thing at that point of the track, which was to actually back away from that move, which would have only actually seen him around the outside of the Mountain, which was not a good place to see. We saw Gordon Sawyer spinning out there earlier today, so I think that was a good call.
Down the pit straight, end of lap number 2. 3.5 minutes in the books. It's the end of the first proper flying lap. So the first proper fastest lap of the race does go to leader Hugo Bush, 1:40.927, as they push the blades of grass well on the outside of the momentum of the cars. It sort of rushes past down towards Coppice Corner. So Mansberger holds on to that 2nd place. Mansberger in the black and green car, number 25. The red and white car, Tom Cockrell. Steve Lancaster in the kind of lighter, sort of slightly paler yellowy green, number 49. And then you've got Alex Vincent in the grey and green machine in 5th position. Up towards Park Corner again. Mansberger just going towards the middle. They're back through again, so they have switched back around again. So the toe off the corner was strong enough to give Cockrell the run up Park Straight to make the move before they even got to the braking zone. So, and that's a crucial thing, is if you get a strong enough run, we've seen that a number of times today already. You can make that happen and do that. It just depends on how good your run is off the previous corner to get the toe up the hill. And having a toe up the hill is much stronger than you think it is, because it really can give you so much advantage. The resistance that you get up the hill, it might be a little bit stronger to do so. Now, what's going to be interesting also is now Cockrell's ahead of Mansberger. How much can he pull away, which he's trying to do now, to close back down what's currently a 1.7 second advantage that Hugo Bush currently has. And we know how strong Hugo is, because if he's given a chance to get out in front, he's done it several times before this year, he will take it like a shot and he will run off like a greyhound chasing a rabbit.
It's going to evaporate. I think by the next time they come across the line, that gap will have gone. Cockrell is actually flying. Now he's got through from Mansberger, but equally it would have been disappointing for Hugo to see that battle wasn't more intense and more side by side going into that bend. I think by the fact that you know, it sorted itself out before we even got to the turn has meant that this front battle is going to compress right back up. Bush is not far enough ahead to make that break stick.
Case in point, there we go, look at that. In fact, look at that fast lap of the race. Hugo Bush did a 1:40.5, Tom Cockrell a 39.6. He's a full second of that quicker than Hugo Bush at this current stage of the race. So Tom Cockrell is driving like his life depends on it at the moment. So he's got the gap down to a fraction over a second. Mansberger has now dropped back to 2.1, back to another 1.1 seconds back. So he's got to hold on, and Peter Mott is pushing it. There's James Hall actually who's pushing it very hard. Got sideways, and look at this. Tom Cockrell has caught Hugo Bush incredibly quickly. So, boy, is he ever got in terms of pace. Whether he just likes the circuit or the car's working well, I don't know what it was that he had for lunch, but whatever it is, he's propelling him pretty quickly. But
it's the power of the toe, Scott. That's exactly what we saw. Hugo Bush was not far enough ahead. In fact, he was the perfect distance ahead for Cockrell to gain all that toe down the backside. Lancaster, last time out, put a wheel on the mud there, and we've seen Hall do the same thing. So it's just, you've got to maintain that concentration for the entirety of this race. They've got 20 minutes to concentrate around here. They've done some epic racing all year, but it's certainly, you've got to be precise. But here you go, Hugo Bush is, as I said, his lead has evaporated with the Cockrell. Well, look at that brilliant jump over there to keep us amused through the high jump contest that we've got going on as well.
Yeah, the Caterham jumping contest that's going on all weekend at Cadwell Park at the Mountain. It's a bit like Collins Crest in Sweden in the World Rally Championship, where they try and get the highest possible jump. I think the award at the moment for the highest possible leap impossible to go to Gordon Sawyer all weekend because he got the car not only off the ground, but the back of the car was higher than the front. It was incredible. He obviously stood on the nose to try and make sure that the brakes try and bring the weight of the nose down. Cockrell again with another new fast snap of the race. It's 1:39.5. And again, Bush has got into the 39s, but he's still 0.4 of a second slower. In terms of lap time, Mansberger hasn't got a response yet. He's at a 40.5. He is the third fastest man on the track, and everyone else is doing 41s and 42 backwards. But at the moment, he just has no response for the top two.
Bush just needed that battle to go on maybe one more lap, and he would have been away. But as it happens, it didn't, and therefore he's not. And like you say, Mansberger just has not quite got those couple of tenths it needs to be able to cling on. However, these two now going side by side is going to slow them down, and they're going to have to agree to disagree on who's going to win that corner. Mansberger might therefore get the run back on them, but he's not going to do it today based on pace alone.
No, it looks like I think Cockrell has he got his second front. It's tough to call, but they were still side by side exiting Chris Curve towards the gooseneck. Change for fourth though. We've got Alex Vincent ahead of Steve Lancaster, and James Hall is in there as well in sixth position ahead of Mott, West, Boys and Lund. There's the scrap for fourth as it comes down through the gooseneck. Little twitch from Steve Lancaster. Now with James Hall with his tail up, and there has been a change. There it is. So Tom Cockrell is into a lead then, past Hugo Bush. That's all he needs to try and do to try and get that on, because of course he came into the weekend on points. He was 3 points behind both Hugo Bush and Mansberger. So out of the places he wants to be in the league with both behind is exactly where he wants to be, because he's gaining those points back on them on those drop scores. So this is exactly the plan going to work. What he now needs is ideally Bush and Mansberger to start battling. There's a big strap going on behind, which we'll sort out in a second. He needs Bush to start falling backwards towards Mansberger for them to fight, and then to be caught by the guys behind the fourth downwards. If that happens, it's far-fetched, but 11.5 minutes, anything can happen. That ideally will see him start to not only pull away, but see the risk of both Bush and Mansberger dropping backwards and losing even more points, that brings him right back into contention for that runners-up spot.
Well, Cockrell gains another point because he gets 2-point gap between the leader and second place anyway, and he's also got fastest lap of the race. So actually, that is a 3-point swing immediately without having to be pushed back into the field. But nevertheless, he wants to see that happen. I don't see that actually panning out. I think those top three here just have an extra bit of pace above the pack that are following.
So watching on that scrap for fourth then. Looks like Alex Vincent already out of shot. Here comes Bush with a retaliation back into Park Corner. Looks to the outside line, looks to the switchback, and look at Mansberger. He thinks, right, you two keep on battling. Time for me to start to close back in now. Exactly what you said, Chris. Lock up there for Alex Vincent as he tries to hold on to fourth. There's battle for fifth going on still between Lancaster and Mott. These two have been quite close to each other all season in many cases, so good to see them battling and continuing that scrap going on. Looking at the points, Steve Lancaster 10th of the points coming into the weekend, Peter Mott 30th on drop scores. So
a great performance for them to be up there, right there battling with this, not away from the lead group. And Mansberger there really closed up on that lap, didn't he, with that battling? So whilst I said he wasn't going to do it on speed, he might well do it by the fact that these guys are all tripping each other up at the moment.
Over the mountain, 1, 2, 3. Nice little leap there from Mansberger. Our latest entrant to the Caterham jumping contest. Judge who was the best so far today in the comment. Fourth place downwards, Alex Vincent. We've then got Lancaster, Mott, James Hall's dropped a couple of places, and also in there too is Toby Boyd, Adam West, sorry. And you can tell it's Adam West because not only does he have the Batman logo, but his number plate literally says Batman. So he's fully playing up to having the same name as the original star of that. Sorry, played the original version of the superhero. 0.7 of a second between Cockrell and Bush, with Mansberger a further 6/10 back. So top three covered by 1.3 seconds. A few personal bests from 5th down to 8th from those drivers. Lancaster, Mott, Hall and West, they're all improving their pace and looking pretty competitive. And now they start to close back in again now. What kind of races would have been if we had Flanagan and Gwyn Jones and a couple of others in the mix? That would have been quite fascinating.
They've been absolutely hammer and tong all year, and it's been really great to watch such a strong grid of 4 or 5 drivers there all going at it every single race, and really exciting watching. And whilst there's only 3 of them here today, they're still giving us a show, aren't they? Interestingly, Cockrell there had enough of a lead going out of Charlie's to maintain it going in to park at the top of the hill. So whilst the gap is reduced here, the last 2 laps we've seen him extend it out again as he's going through those park bends and through the hairpin and barn. He just managed to extend it. Just a note at this point that he still looks the fastest on this track, but ultimately it's going to be those little mistakes that cause it. You can see that gap just again slightly extending. It was right at Mansfield, it was right nose to tail, but now it's spreading out again.
I think there's some gone into who they're for. I think there's one or two signs that have been put out for some of the spectators up at the complex at the mountain. As we saw, Lancaster got a little bit sideways on the exit, just off the top of the mountain. Now he's under threat from James Hall and Adam West as they turn through the Hall bends now. This is on lap 7. As they wind their way back down towards the hairpin. Very tricky part of the circuit under brakes. Wind on the steering lock, turn through the hairpin, then back again through the right-hander at Barn. And so lap time-wise, Cockrell was not the fastest man on the track of the 3. It was actually Hugo Bush in the tow. He did a 39.9 compared to a 40.0 for Mansberger in third, and 40.1 for Cockrell, who currently leads the race. West looking to the outside of Hall as they come up through Coppice again. This is on lap 8 as they come up through the right-hander. So it looks as though at the moment, a bit stabilising between 4th and 5th position down to about 9th place. There is Alex Vincent. So, and here's the battle for the lead. Here comes Bush again round the outside. Right, pass around the outside. Will he try that for size? And round the outside, which you've seen more than once today. Through goes Hugo Bush into the lead. Cockrell then into 2nd place, and Mansberger will keep him watching brief, saying, just you keep scrapping, you two. I'll pick up the pieces if anything happens. Yeah,
like you say, round the outside has worked up at the top there at Barn Corner. At Park Corner, and it's you know, it doesn't look when you're when you're driving into that corner. I can promise you, it doesn't look like an outside move would work. But just that extra momentum. Obviously, the driver down the inside has to brake slightly earlier so that they don't drift out. It would be their accident and their issue with the Clark. Of course, with Hugo absolutely drifting round there into the mountain section. Great car control then. Maybe not the quickest way to do it, but again, he's showing his intent, isn't he? He's not happy to sit in 2nd place today.
Certainly bringing every little bit of performance out of that occasion that he can try and afford to expel. As they turn out of Barn Corner, top 3 altogether. As you say, I think Mansberger, rather than having that ultra pace, he's simply just waiting for an opportunity where these two just get a little too close to each other and just hold each other up a little bit too much, and then it gives them that chance to get through.
If you haven't got those last few tenths that you need to got, that's a very sensible thing to do. You've got to keep yourself there or thereabouts, and he's definitely quick enough to do that, isn't he? So, but every time they sort of let the battle quietens a bit, he does drop back. So it does worry me for that, but he does need them to keep battling, and but it looks like that's going to happen to the end of this race. 6 minutes to go.
Yeah, 6 minutes left on the clock here in our penultimate race of today, our first of 2 Mission Motorsport Caterham Roadsport Championship races. There is Dominique Mansberger. I'll tell you one thing for a fact, if it was raining, Mansberger will be all over them, because we know he's a renowned wet weather specialist in these Caterhams. Back into the lead goes Cockrell with the tow up toward Park Corner, so he gets back through. And again, gives Bush the outside treatment, just as he did a lap ago.
Looked easier for Cockrell, though, didn't it?
Yeah, a little wiggle there on the exit, and so he's just up to the Chris curve, and again, just keeping a watching brief there is Mansberger, and he's very steadily and stealthily just edging close, that little bit by bit, just edging closer. He's now on the tail of Bush as they come up through Mansfield. All line astern out of the complex. A little wide there for Mansberger, but he manages to keep the throttle on and finds another gear as he turns up towards the second complex, over the curb, and again, and over the crest. 1, 2, 3. You're that close, you can always throw a blanket over them. That's how close and competitive it is. Then we wait a few more seconds, and we wait, and we wait, and we wait, and we still wait, and then our 4th place battle comes through. We have Alex Vincent from Peter Mott, and then it's Adam West has got past Steve Lancaster. So Lancaster's strong run initially in 4th position has dropped him down to what's now currently into 7th place now. James Hall's back in 8th, Toby Boys is 9th, and rounding out the top 10 is Andy Lunn, with Berg, Eels, Hilton, Arnold, Patwood and Mariadis rounding out the 16 cars. So all 16 cars have started, they're still going with less than 5 minutes to go.
Yeah, like I said, maybe those couple of little mistakes I saw earlier have sort of cost him a little bit as the race has progressed, and some of the more regular people that are ahead of him, sort of, more commonly ahead of him, have sort of made the benefit of that. Interesting, on the Roadsport runs a slightly softer suspension. Well, they're the same suspension as the Academy, but compared to the sort of higher up classes, and they're able to use some of the curves. Cockrell up the inside, but Hugo Bush drifting around the outside there. What an impressive bit of driving that was. We're seeing the gap there, the actual physical gap back to the battle behind, but they're able to use the inside curves and some of the higher sausage curves much more than the other championship class, so they can actually do different lines, which is quite interesting for me to watch here.
Mansberger again, he keeps it. He's always become a bit of a silent assassin here, just very quietly but very carefully, just again creeping onto the rear roll cage of these top 2 here, just keeping them in check. He knows that there's an opportunity to come here. Adam West on the back now of Peter Moss as they come through. Here's our leaders as they wind back through the mountain. A bit of a leap over the crest. It's Dominique Mansberger's turn to catch some air through Hall Bends, and I have to agree, watching these three and the likes of Gwyn Jones and Tony Flanagan, it's been a joy to watch. I think it's been arguably the strongest battle out of the 5 Caterham, the 6 Caterham champions, including our 2 academies. Watching this group of drivers, that group of 4 or 5 drivers, constantly back and forth every single meeting, it's been a great thing to watch, and they've been thoroughly entertaining. So
I truly hope that they will all go on to the 270R class, or or maybe I'd rather they didn't skip. I prefer to see drivers go through the whole Caterham ladder, because it actually teaches you something every single step. And if we see drivers skip, they often lose a bit of skill there, or it's good to have that rounded experience of all the levels of the championship. It steps you up, and if these guys can continue that battle for the rest of the season, how good? For the rest of the next 4 years, how good is that for us watching?
Absolutely. Here comes Mansberger, has a look up the inside, and he thought about it. He was thinking, will I, won't I, maybe, and then decided at the last minute, no, definitely not happening. He has to try and back out of it, because he knew there was going to be contact if he carried on charging up the inside. So he very smartly thought discretion was the better part of valour, as the saying goes. He thinks, right, he's running out of time, but he's still got time to possibly try that one more time if he's close enough.
If he has an opportunity, as we've just seen, he will go for it at least half go, and next time round, maybe he'll go even more. And you know what? You're right. He has crept onto that lead, and he's stuck there now, hasn't he? And while these two are still going side by side, and Hugo's doing those outside drifts, it's really giving that opportunity. And he knows how to craft a race, and he may be in the prize seats with 1 minute and 50 seconds to go.
I figured out who the support is up at the complex. It's for Adam West, because I noticed only was there a black flag with the Batman logo on it. There was also a sign that said, I could read it backwards, "Go Batman." So that's obviously the Adam West fan club, the Caterham fan club down at the complex. He's doing a great job. In fact, he's up in P6 and challenging Peter Mott and Alex Vincent, so he's in the mix. He's got 1 more lap to try and pick up at least 1 more place onto the final lap of the race. Pretty much equal lap times. There's only about 1/10 of a second in it between the top 3, so they're that evenly matched. Here comes the chasing pack for 4th downwards. Vincent, Mott, West, Lancaster and Hall in there. Toby Boyce isn't too far away either. Now then, Cockrell's got the run here. He's the closest he's ever been on the exit of Park of Charlie's. Here he comes, and it wasn't a great exit for Hugo Bush. Here comes Cockrell to pull side by side. That Mansberger will be watching this very carefully here, as now here goes Cockrell now to the outside line. Mansberger takes his race now, because he knows if they're both in the compromised line, he can sneak through. Back up the inside goes Bush. Cockrell sticks it round the outside. There's a tiniest bit of contact. They just about hold on. Mansberger puts 2 wheels onto the grass and just about tries to make a move, but can't make it stick. And they're back to where they started again. But just for that brief moment, it looked as though it was going to be something that was either quite incredible or quite terrifying.
I mean, we say that the crescendo is always up at that corner, because that's the last good overtaking opportunity, and that has now passed. So Cockrell is definitely in the prime seats. Hugo Bush tried his hardest to hold off, but just couldn't manage it. So Cockrell, unless he makes a mistake now, I can't see it happening. Hugo will really have to force something to make this work. But at the moment, Cockrell is in. Would certainly get my bet for the win.
Over the mountain for the final time. Mansberger not giving up the pursuit. If he's going to make this, there's going to be a change here. It's going to have to be exiting Barn Curve and on the run towards the pit straight. It could be a Caterham photo finish if the exit for Bush is good enough, if he can make it happen. The clock ticks down to 0 now. So is there any last chance is going to be in here? But I don't think he's close enough. He's got a good run out of Barn Corner for the last time. I think Bush will try and get close, but it's going to be too late. So the top 3 battling for the 2nd place in the championship will come across the line as one. It's going to be Cockrell, who takes a crucial victory in the Mission Motorsport Caterham Roadsport Championship. He wins from Hugo Bush in 2nd place, Dominique Mansberger in 3rd. Then it's going to be Alex Vincent in 4th. And for the Adam West Batman Caterham Appreciation Society up at the complex at the Bouncing, you'll appreciate the fact he got 5th position. Across the line goes Vincent 4th. West does get P5, and it's Mott, Lancaster, Hall, and then we'll have Toby Boyes and Andy Lund rounding out the top 10. Well, that just makes things a whole lot more interesting, doesn't it? Because that incredibly is Cockrell, who did keep the fastest lap of the race. He essentially has clawed back that 3-point gap. And so I think what it has done also is, because Bush finished ahead of Mansberger, I think what it has now done is, it looks as though to me, I think that I would predict, I think that it's now puts Bush and Cockrell, I think, now on equal points, with Mansberger maybe a point back. Gosh. So that that's by the calculations of it, because if you take because they're not dropping in these results. So if you take the points they're scoring, which is what, 25 points for a win, plus the fastest lap of the race, so that's 26. Bush is getting 23, so that would then bring them on to This is my rudimentary maths coming in here to try and work this one out. So this is 229 plus 23. Forgive me whilst I'm doing live GCSE maths here for a second. 2 plus 23, that's 49. 252 points. So I think that puts them each on 252 points. From what I can imagine. You're laughing because I'm trying to work this out on the fly. And I think it then puts on 251 points, I think, because that's 22 points scored. We'll work it out overnight and we'll give you the skinny on it tomorrow. Here's the result at least. I'll stop trying to do maths and give you the results. So Tom Cockrell then takes the victory by Hugo Bush in second place and Dominique Mansberger in third. The top three covered by less than half a second. When it's Alex Vincent, Adam West, Peter Mott, Steve Lancaster, James Hall, Toby Boys and Andy Lund rounding out the top 10. Then it's Berg, Eels, Arno, Hilton, Marius and Hapgood. That's what we like to see. All 16 cars started, all 16 made it home, so good to see. And the fastest lap of the race, of course, was on to Tom Cockrell, and we think it's made things even closer for the battle for second place.
Yeah, really good news for tomorrow, isn't it?